Right, sorry for the delay while we got microphoned up. Welcome to the breakout session about discussing SMEs roles in our future growth. I'm Simon O'Neill, I'm the Managing Partner for EY here in the Midlands. I'm joined by Pamela Kane from March & Kane Group, Chris Randall from Second Home Studios, and Melvin Wingfield from A&M EDM. They're each going to showcase for you what has helped them and their businesses to be successful. And then we'll run a panel discussion afterwards where I encourage you to have some questions, hopefully more than we saw this morning, but just in case I've got a few that we can discuss as a panel. As we discussed this morning, the Midlands is one of the fastest growing and economically important areas of the UK. What we didn't discuss so much this morning was that there's a sizable entrepreneurial and mid-market community, and they're increasingly focused on driving productivity through technology. And therefore, the recent news that the West Midlands won the contract to be the UK's first trial for 5G high-speed connectivity really puts the region at the forefront of innovation and should help us attract high-tech startup companies and lead to the creation of new businesses who want to be at the cutting edge of technology. There's strong evidence that mid-market companies are already leading the way in adopting new technology. According to the EY Growth Barometer, which we released last week, and there are copies in your bag, you'll find that UK's mid-market is fifth globally in the use of artificial intelligence. And it's found to be an early adopter of AI, with 8% of companies already deploying it. And that compares favourably with the US, Russia, Germany, all who had lower early adoption. And what's more is we've seen 89% planning to adopt AI within the next 5 years, which is fundamentally different to the survey last year when almost 2/3 said they'd never use cognitive technology. So the world's changing. EY has been actively supporting and recognising entrepreneurs in the Midlands for many years through the Entrepreneur of the Year programme that we operate. This year, our overall Midlands winner was Clint Wilson, the CEO of Coventry-based Parent Pay, a leading provider of online payment services for schools, one of the UK's fastest growing tech companies. A great example of the businesses that we can grow and nurture here in the Midlands. And with initiatives like the Midlands Engine Investment Fund, SMEs in our region have access to the support to help them grow to their full potential and form a big part of our growth ambition. But is there more we should be doing to help these businesses and help these businesses to be more successful? So I'm now going to hand you over to Pamela. We'll explore that question, and I look forward to your questions at the end.
Am I just okay to click on from there? Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to give you a quick we were founded in 2006 by Rob Marchant, who got a bit fed up with firefighting at one of the large OEMs in the Northwest and said, okay, I think I have skills here that could probably help a lot of other people. And so he set up on his own. He operated. I have to say, I'm married to him as well as being his business partner. So when I say that he started off at the end of the bed, I mean, that's literally how he did start the business. But we moved to our first proper office in Coventry University Technology Park in 2010, and we were there and did quite a lot of things there from then until 2002. We design, develop and manufacture mechatronic components, and what that means is that it's mechanical parts that are driven electrically or electronically. And we do that for, when we say low volume OEMs, it's fewer usually than 10,000 is their volume, and that's the sort of OEMs that original equipment manufacturers, the Jaguar Land Rovers of this world that we like to work with. Our core competencies are what we call window regulators, which makes the glass in the window of your car go up and down. Active aerodynamics, which can change the shape of the vehicle, whether it be a rear air brake or an underbody flap that causes downforce on the vehicle, or electrochromatic glass, which goes from dark. Dark is its natural state, and at the swipe of a button or your phone, you can change it to clear. And also, as I say, low volume manufacturing for niche OEMs is really our USP. So this is a window regulator on the left, and you can see how very badly it fits into that particular test vehicle. So our products and customers are really, all our products are bespoke. We work with vehicle companies right from the very beginning when they may have a design, but they really don't know how they're going to package these parts in the car. But apart from that, we started off doing, for the Ron Howard film, a guy came to us and said, the producer, we can only get one Ferrari. We need 7. How are we going to have those for that film? And so we helped them to make those Ferraris. It's a long story. If you need to know, I'll tell you later. The underbody actuator for the Porsche 918 Spider, Porsche came to us. They had no idea how they were going to raise this flap under the vehicle. So we designed the underbody actuator, which I'll show you in a minute. The electrochromatic glass, we put in, I think it was 12, what we called the princess cars. They were Bentley Mulsanne limousines, and where it saved a lot of weight with curtains and blinds, we were able to put this electrochromatic glass all the way around the cabins. Window regulators, not for Jaguar Land Rover mass, but for special vehicles operations. We're just doing that now. Window regulators and wiper systems and sealing for a little company in Rimac called Rimac in Croatia. You may have seen Mr. Hammond, Richard Hammond, crashed one of their vehicles some time ago, and that's that company. And we're now starting to go a bit further afield. In Los Angeles, a 3D printed company came to us and said, we're going to 3D print the first vehicle that's going to travel at 300 miles an hour. We need window regulators, can you do it? And we said, yeah, how about if we 3D printed it as well? And they went, oh yeah, that's really good. So what we try and pride ourselves on is the fact that we have appropriate technology, tools, processes and materials to accommodate our clients what we call their red book, which is when they come to us with a budget and we have to work around it. So we won't actually say, this is the window regulator that we do, we can do it for you or not. We actually work with them to find out how we can process that best and do the best thing for them. So there's an underbody actuator for the Porsche 918 Spider. That's a new piece of technology that we're developing now, which is going to be a rear air brake. I can't tell you any more about it, otherwise I'd have to kill you. Grants and loans, how have we actually come to this stage where we've been going? Grants and loans from local organisations. We've been very grateful to Birmingham Tooling Loan Fund, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to carry that burden of tooling up for JLR particularly. Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses programme. Aston University actually ran this, and RMD Rob Marchant went on it. That created a massive alumni all over the world. So now when he feels really burdened that he can't carry on, he can ring one or two of them up and say, what did you do? We've had a lot of university assistants from around the region. I won't name them all because I think we've worked with all of them. What we love about being here is that when someone rings up and says, oh, do you need accommodation for the advanced engineering show? I go, no, I'm 10 minutes down the road, no travel. So we're in and out, and I send my guys to learn about what's going on in the automotive sector. Shows that are placed here at the NEC. Our local enterprise partnership, I cannot praise highly enough. They've been brilliant. And we have a lot, because of where we are, we're developing a really good network of local, agile and quality suppliers, and of course our brilliant workforce. I don't know what we would have done without them. With regards to our future growth, what are we looking for in this area? Well, we need the right staff, skills, culture, ethos, attitude and aptitude, and that's, I think, going to be a big part of what we talk about this afternoon. Finance, cash flow, finance, cash flow, finance, cash flow. It's a perennial problem for all SMEs, I think most companies. But we are looking now towards new markets in China and India, probably. We're talking to the China Business Council at the moment. And into new sectors. We've recently spoken to HS2 about providing them with acoustic barriers for the 28 kilometres as it comes out the tunnel. And new customers. We're always looking for new customers, but fortunately we're at the stage now where people are coming to us. We're not having to stand up and go, Pam Kane, Marchant Kane Design, and people say, oh, not that woman again. So the message is beginning to get around, and so now we're actually feeling that we've we've actually made it or are making it. We've still got some way to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Pamela. Great example of why disruptive problem-solving approach. So many of these opportunities have come out of client making requests, and others have said, can't do it, we don't know how to do it. Where you sat down and you go through bringing your know-how, processes, technology, how do you solve that problem?
Very much so.
Fantastic. Right, over to Chris with something a little bit different.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Randall. I run Second Home Studios. We are an animation company based in Digbeth since 2004. Since in that time we've worked on a whole raft of projects, and it's just to kick it off. It's probably easier if I just show you a short clip reel of all that work. That one. So yeah, there you go. That's what we do. There's a kind of a mixture of styles, techniques, clients, briefs, budgets, crew sizes, parameters, all in the mix there. I started life as a film clapper loader and trainee motion control assistant. I was lucky enough to start freelancing whilst at university, working on shows like Red Dwarf, blowing up Starbug in my university holidays, which was fantastic fun. And I was of the belief then that I'd be loading film cameras for the rest of my days, and I was quite happy with that outcome. The fact that you could tell me I could fit my show reel on a phone that was the same size as a packet of cigarettes, that nobody would smoke anymore, it was completely beyond me. So I, after freelancing, went to work for Central TV and running a rostrum studio. And in my lunch hours, I started teaching myself to animate. And it was literally just for fun, just for giggles. And CITV kind of took notice of this and started giving me actual live briefs to work on, along with other designers. And when those started winning awards, my head of department started joking. He says, "Oh, you'll be starting your own studio soon. Little did I know. So with that, working with models and cameras, it was, stop motion is an obvious kind of meeting place for that, and having my own small studio I was able to just cultivate that and work in front of and behind the camera at the same time. And then after 8 months, when it all migrated to Manchester, and after commuting for 8 months, I gave that up and set up Second Home Studios in Digbeth in 2004, which is where we've been ever since. And initially I thought, there isn't another stop motion studio in Birmingham. We're the first, which is nice. And for those that aren't familiar with that term, obviously stop motion is models, puppets, things, real models, real lights, real studio, real problems to solve, and it's all about the physical and the handmade and the tactile, which is why even in a prevalently CG age, stop motion has still got that element of charm to it. And no better example of that than with the Share a Story for Children's ITV. Ironically, we ended up doing contract work back for CITV once I'd left, which was brilliant because we could go back in a much more creative capacity. And for those who aren't familiar with it, Share a Story is it's like a national competition where the broadcaster invited children to write in with a 6-panel storyboard and a story idea, and they whittled them down out of thousands down to 8, and then they farmed them out to small studios, and we were one of them. And it's been going for 8 years, finished last year, and we contribute to 6 of those. And it constantly punched above its weight. It won 4 children's BAFTAs in the short form category, and it was just a creative highlight of the year because during the recession, it was great because we were just doing a lot of sort of just bread and butter graphics work, motion graphics work, 2D digital stuff, just to kind of keep the lights on. And Share a Story would come along once a year, and we'd have this creative explosion because the sort of the untempered kind of imaginations of kids. It was just a real treat. And having that as a showreel piece every single year just kept our showreel, refreshed, and it was just a fantastic creative opportunity. So in comparison to that, Share a Story always took place within a sort of a 6-week time frame, and other projects we've always wanted to do longer form development. And when animators tell you, they say, "Oh, I'm making a film," they mean something that's like maximum 5 minutes, 10 if they're lucky and they've got a budget, and that will take a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 or 4. And this one was a special project, the mechanical musical marvel for Town Hall Symphony Hall, and it took us 18 months to make it. It was a 6-minute film, and we had to teach 6 to 11-year-olds about pipe organs. Very, very, it's niche within a niche, and we used about 16 months of that to develop the script and work on the animatic, which is effectively a moving storyboard. And it paid off. We went through 31 different drafts of the script, 8 different versions of the animatic, and we knew we could animate it in 6 weeks, which we did using this technique. And we brought it in on budget, on time, and it keeps getting invited to screen around the world. And it's travelled really well at festivals and picked up some awards as well for its educational content. So that's another big sector we're into. We love doing educational stuff as well as broadcast things. So that's the second technique, obviously 2D, whether it's hand-drawn or digital. The third one, obviously, is CGI, or computer witchcraft, as I like to call it, mainly because I'm not a hands-on animator with CG, but I sort of produce and direct it with other animators. And we've managed to diversify our output into projection design for stage productions. And this one was for The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which was in Kensington Gardens in a huge tent at the same time as the Olympics was on. It was a technical challenge because it was a 360-degree image in the round without any seams, so it was completely seamless with all 12 projectors firing out from under the stage above the audience's heads. We really enjoyed the technical challenge. Trying to render sequences in a tent with a generator going down every night wasn't so fun. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a quick idea of how we've how we've started with stop motion, then moved and sort of used our abilities as animators with different techniques to kind of answer different briefs of different size, and to sort of answer different creative challenges. In terms of new stuff, this is one of our recent kind of toys. This is we've kind of come full circle. I mean, like I say, I grew up with motion control rigs, which is effectively I should have explained this. Sorry, it's effectively a robotic controlled camera crane. And because now the technology has kind of shrunk down so much in size and we can shoot now on DSLRs, we now have this miniature sort of tower crane that we've developed, and it's actually an upcycled film camera rostrum track, which turned on its side, and with a rotation bed on it, we now have a 7-axis camera motion control rig. We also do puppetry. When animation is too labour intensive, we were able to sort of make suggestions and say to clients, have you considered shooting live and having the same tactile finish and playing to our strengths as model makers and designers, but also shooting it live. And it's great because when we get to play with puppets, we can shoot 17 takes like any live action crew. Ordinarily it's just a one-take wonder with stop motion. And one of our recent puppetry films for West Midlands, West Mercia Police got 150,000 views in its first 2 weeks it's called Road Monster. So that was a real, we're really pleased with that result. Some behind the scenes shots there of the studio at work, just to prove we do like to get our hands dirty. Some shots there from some of the clips from the show reel there. Yes, that is Matthew Kelly dressed as a witch on green screen. Anita Rani from the One Show being covered in paint, Country File. So that gives you, we work in all different kinds of materials, from clay to wood to resins, cardboard, tinfoil, everything starts as a sketch, goes through the studio and some guys, and then goes, gets spat out to the other end via computer. That's Second Home really, and that's just hopefully gives you a brief overview of how we've sort of managed to diversify over the last since 2004. So, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Well, Melvin gets himself to the podium because he's at the other end. I mean, there's two real points that resonate with what you said with me. The first one is a story you told very quickly, but you shared with me more last night in terms of how you got into the business and the support you got to inspire you into what is now what you do today and has evolved hugely. It's a really important point we mustn't forget. I think secondly, your ability to appeal on a global scale. So you talked about 150,000 views in the time scale you get that. Other businesses are envious of that. And I think it's just having businesses like yours here in the Midlands helps us appeal to a global stage at a speed that very few of the businesses can do. So fantastic. So last but certainly not least, Melvin, over to you.
Well, I'm first of all envious of both our previous speakers because they have ideas, and it's fair to say an idea of mine would die of loneliness. We started in 2002, and we were one of these things at the bottom, a non-employing business. There were the two directors, A and M, were nothing if not witty. A and M, Arthur and Mark. And it would have been Mark and Arthur because Mark's got the bigger ego, but he realised that A comes before M in the alphabet. And it had got us higher up in the phone book. Phone books, yeah, that's an old one. We were here. When we started, we were here. We're now in that little section there. Have we got aspirations for the far side? I suppose we have. But how you make that jump, I'm not quite sure. But our jump from here to here was with the help, as I said, of the local state, of the LEP and of the local government. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. You can see from the numbers there that there are roughly 5.7 million companies in the country, of which 4.4 million don't employ anybody other than the directors and the owner-operator, if that is the case. We're third tier down here. There are 33,000, nearly 39,000, 34,000 businesses of our size. We employ 70 people now. You can see the importance of the L. I'm not going to talk about them and how you get to there. But we, in effect, supply this tier here. We're second tier, first tier suppliers to some of the major companies in the area. Yeah. How did we jump from being a non-employing company to being one of the 34,000 M's in the SMEs? The first bit of luck we had was an organisation called Advantage West Midlands. They've gone now. But through Advantage West Midlands, we met another company or an organisation called MAS, Manufacturing Advisory Service. That old cliche about, I think was it Donald Rumsfeld, you know, there are known knowns, unknown, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. We knew more about the last one than we knew about the other because we didn't know anything. We knew how to make stuff, but our skills weren't in marketing, they weren't in sales, they were in making stuff. And I use that word in the widest sense because when we started, we were a subcontract shop. We made stuff for other people. People came to us. How they came to us, I don't know. That's a little bit of a mystery to us. Our reputation got out there, but I'm not sure how it got out there. We've tried to work a little bit harder at that more recently. But Advantage West Midlands and MAS were important because they gave us advice and they gave us guidance and they gave us money. They gave us grants that allowed us to buy capital equipment that we couldn't at the time afford. But with their help, we could afford it. It works out about a 20% discount over our history on the capital equipment we've bought. And while that might sound a lot, might not sound a lot, I don't know, it's been vitally important to us because at every point it's allowed us to buy new equipment and to grow. Our name is A&M EDM. EDM stands for electro-discharge machining. We're also remarkably lucky on Twitter that it also calls for electronic dance music. So we've got thousands of followers that think they're going to get some kind of banging music and everything. They get some boring bloke talking about cutting metal with sparks and electric charges. But the important thing in the story, as I say, is the role of the local state. Through these organisations and latterly the local economic partnership, and we're in the Black Country, and so it's the Black Country Local Economic Partnership, we've been allowed to diversify. We've taken risks. Yeah. And I think local government and I think the local state's taken risks. It's taken risks in backing us. Could have failed. That's a risk that they've taken in that funding. But we've moved from the directors are the only 2 employees to 70 people in 16 years. 16 years, the end of this month. It was September 2002 we started. We'll turn over at the end of this financial year. We'll just about make 6 million, which for us is massive. It's about a 30% growth on last year. We started exporting our own product, and we'll probably do about £600,000 in exports this year. I was explaining before we started the session, a company that's working on nuclear fusion in France came to us because we've got a machine that when we bought it, its serial number was 13, and that was in the world. And it's the scale of the machine that gives us that edge. I should have said we're based in Smethwick, up by the Albion ground, not far from where James Watt and Matthew Bolton had their first foundry. So it's at the heart of the country's industrial revolution, the first industrial revolution. And there's a range of skills and ability that date back to then. And it's not all about metal bashing. We do, and I keep on being vague about this, we do stuff. Yeah, we do stuff. We do clever stuff that I'm quite proud of and that I could bore you with for hours about this clever stuff that we do. But it dates back to this lineage. But the secret, I think, no, it's not a secret. The reason for our success, I think, is the entrepreneurial drive of the people that started the company allied to the ability and the willingness of, and I keep on this phrase, the local state, but the local state to support us, and that's in all its guises, whether it's elected local government or whether it's the appointed bodies. They have supported us, and I'd like to think we've repaid that faith in us. This is what I want to talk about now. And I am coming to an end, I promise you. But this quote here, this little thing there. Manufacturing industry, which we're part of, 5% of the businesses, 10% of the employment, and 15% of the turnover. It's dead simple. Look at that ratio. For every 1% of business, you get 2% of the employment, you get 3% of the turnover. We should be putting more into manufacturing industry. And on a contentious point, this is the reason I think we don't. If you look at this chart here, it's just the spread of manufacturing industry around the country. And the interesting thing are these statistics here, right? What percentage of income the worker gets relevant to the local market? And all around the country, manufacturing outperforms the local market, except for, no surprise, London. If you work in London, you're only getting about 87%, I think the figure is, of the local wage, right? So, policymakers, where are they? Let me think now. Are they in there? No, they're down there. Manufacturing's not important enough to that region, I would argue. I would argue for the rest of the country, it's massively important. I'm going to gloss over the fact that this chart says that our productivity is not great in this region. Because I could make our productivity really good. I could sack all the workers and just put machines in there and our productivity would shoot through the roof. But, yeah, I'm not sure that's what people would want. But the importance of manufacturing industry, allied to a support from the state, has got us to where we are today. And remember, 99% of all businesses are SMEs. And on that happy note, I've done.
Got some questions?
Yes.
Right. Questions. Does anyone from the floor have a question they want to ask following those three very different but energised, compassionate about their businesses presentations?
Oh, that's good.
And there's no roving mics because we're in a nice one.
It's a straightforward question really. So, talented graduates to work in smaller companies out of university or young people.
Do you want me to go?
You go first.
You've got a good example.
First of all, we have to compete for people like CAD engineers, computer-aided design engineers, with the likes of Aston Martin and JLR and their first-tier suppliers. But what we've found is that the prestige clients that we have, the variety and challenge of the work, the fact that, to illustrate it really, one of our placement engineers last year actually went back to university with his name on a patent that he developed. So really, and also we try, and Rob always accuses me of mothering them, and he says I have to be more forceful with them. But I think it's the fact that we try to make them feel like family. And once they've told their friends, then we tend to get a lot of applications. But I have to admit that we don't use agencies, so we make a job for ourselves really by not using agencies. But we try and put the word out there that the clients, the work, the ethos of the company does have a big pull. Doesn't work for everybody, but it works for us.
Question?
Yeah, I normally get about, on average, I worked it out, it's about one a day, applications from graduates, undergraduates or graduates. So there's actually not very much we need to do to attract people interested in placements or internships or apprenticeships in that regard really, or budding freelancers. we have 4 universities in the region now that all offer animation-specific courses or media-related courses. Well, yeah, there's probably more than that, but you know, at least one per uni. They've all got a dedicated animation course, so there's plenty of appetite there. The only problem is they're all graduating into a vacuum presently. So we don't have an Aardman, we don't have a factory or a Passion Pictures or 3 Mills like in London. But there's no reason why we can't. We've got a commission with CBeebies to develop a series which we're trying to close the finance on at the moment. So something like that will obviously be a good way to bring, you know, have a conveyor belt for people to graduate, come on board as trainee animators, learn on a production for a meaningful amount of time, and for that sustainability of work to tick over, to start ticking over. And there's no reason why we can't have that. There's companies in the region that are older than ours. The Character Shop, they're predominantly CG. But in terms of attracting talent, it does find us. The problem is for us is retaining them, and you know, because when they realise that they can only get short-term periods with ourselves and our friends in other companies, then you know, it's a natural draw to go elsewhere, to Bristol, Manchester or London. But hopefully that will change and very, very soon.
We've taken a slightly different approach. We actually send some of our employees to university. They started as apprentices, they've gone through the apprenticeship, gone through the HNC, and then they've gone on to university. Graduates that apply to us for roles that we haven't got. We take, so we have CAD designers, but the CAD designers, once they've designed the job, then go and load the job on the machine and machine the job. It's a holistic process for where we're concerned. So we look more at apprentices and getting that too. So we've taken on in total 14 apprentices in the time that we've been going. We've got 8 currently, we've got 3 people doing their HNCs, and as I said, we've got 1 going through a degree course. Hopefully those numbers will grow as we go on. But that way it allows us to have employees that suit our business rather than trying to fit our business around what they want. You're welcome.
Any other questions from the floor?
Well, it's one question. I'll ask it to Melvin because of time. What's the one piece of advice that you'd give to somebody starting out as an SME?
Have you heard of Stakhanov? He was a coal miner in the Soviet Union in the 1950s, and in the 30s. Stalin picked him as a model worker because Stakhanov hewed 100 tons of coal. He was the first worker to do that. He worked bloody hard. That's the thing. It is bloody hard. I was talking to a colleague last night at the dinner, and I was struck by the fact that she'd left home that morning at 6 o'clock to attend an event at the Birmingham City Football Ground at 7:30, and she was still ostensibly working last night at 10 o'clock. That's the life of an SME. When you get fed up of that, I think you've got a few problems. That's it. And yeah, one bit of advice, I'm going to give you 2 now as well. So yeah, like Tesco's. Did you notice they got the big show over one of the halls there? See, I'm just like Tesco's, buy one get one free. Have a willingness to do anything. Ostensibly, my brother's the engineer. We got quite fortunate in that we share the same DNA. I got fortunate because he's the one with the ideas. But he's not good as administration. He's not good. He's good at engineering. He's not good at everything else. So he's delegated that. Be prepared to do everything. Absolutely everything. And I don't just mean the nice jobs. When somebody comes to tell you that the toilet's blocked, we've got 70 employees and they're coming to tell me the toilet's blocked. That's the mentality of an SME. That's the way SMEs work. It isn't somebody else's job. It's probably your job. One of the jobs I do most days, probably the last job I do before I go home every day, is load the dishwasher. We've got 70 employees. Why can't they load the bloody dishwasher? They don't. So that's it. I hope that answers.
No, it's a great answer. Pamela and Chris, what's your piece of advice you'd give someone?
Have a vision, have a vision a long way ahead. What is your exit strategy? So you're building a company, but what do you want out of it and how you're going to get out of it? And alongside that, have a really strongly written business plan that lays out all your finances as well as everything else. Don't stick to it rigidly, it will have to change, but you must have a plan to start with. If you don't have a plan, how do you know where you're going?
I'm going to steal
Come on,
from
top-
both
top
sources. Buy a dishwasher, learn Excel. I think planning is, for me, is the one thing that we had to, because I set up second home with a friend of mine, Jim Turner, who's now in Bristol, and he does live action producing, directing. And when you go into business with friends, it's really hard. It's challenging. It'll stress the friendship. We're still really good mates, and even though it was better for us to work apart, mainly for economical reasons at the time, be very wary of that. If that's the way you're going into it, give yourself time to learn the things that you don't know. And it's more, some of the things are much more basic than you realise. I get asked by students a lot, what's the most important piece of software I should use? What can I learn? You know, with things like Maya, C4D, CAD, just kind of tripping over each other to accelerate the pace of how realistically something can be rendered. You know, what am I supposed to learn? And I'd say, learn Excel. You can turn it into whatever you need. And just the way you can plan. The one thing that creative people don't do very well is plan and administrate their own themselves. Yeah. And so much of animation is creative admin for an idea that you've had months ago. So having a sort of a bit of a humility about your own ignorance is a helpful to have, I think, at times.
Very good. Well, time is upon us. I hope that's been enlightening to you. I mean, a great thing to hear, first and foremost, 3 fantastic businesses thriving here in the West Midlands, making that jump up the scale, but also connecting into all the help that's available. And I don't think that's very easy at times. We didn't have time to explore that today, but I think that's really important. So great to see the examples. Can you all thank the panel with show of appreciation?
Okay.